Morning friends, welcome to another video. Again, this week's going to be something a bit different. For those of you who enjoy the vlogs, I will do a vlog update at some point, but there has been a lot happening and there's a lot to update you on that front. So watch this space. I'll do a proper update at some point. But for today, I wanted, and you've probably seen the title of today's video, I wanted to get into some stuff for my book people. The last couple of videos have really kicked off. My channel's always had pretty low views, but I think I've got about like 100, maybe 200 new subscribers, and the last couple of videos got thousands of views, right? So to those of you who are new to this channel, welcome. Thank you very much for subscribing or for clicking on the video. I really appreciate it. Anyway, I haven't had a coffee yet today, so before we get into this video, we've got to take care of the essentials. So I'm heading to a particularly nice coffee shop just out of town. Gonna get ourselves a nice coffee, maybe something to eat as well. Okay, coffee acquired, cigar on the go. Book number one is Jack Donovan's The Way of Men. If you've not heard of this book, I hadn't either until I read it, and it was recommended by a couple of people who I would follow or watch online. And it's not a really big book, 150 pages or so. Jack Donovan is quite a controversial author from what I understand, but I don't really know why. Okay, so but I do know that this is a really good book if you want to kind of understand what it means to be a man. And one of the main concepts in this book, which I really enjoyed, was when Jack talks about the difference between a good man and being good at being a man, which are two very different things, right? This book really resonated with me. And the other thing I like about Jack Donovan, I've read his whole series of books, but one of the things I like about him is he seems to be the real deal, right? If you see the guy, he's in great shape. He's a jiu-jitsu purple belt. He kind of like lives it as well as writes about it. So it's a really good place to start if you're interested in exploring this kind of topic, which I think all men should. I think it is a really good thing to not only to have self-awareness, but to really sort of like dive into a little bit of like, what does it really mean to be a man in today's day and age? I really recommend this book, or any of his other books, but this is a great place to start. And I would say that this is a great place to start with this topic in general. This book had a big impact on me, and I found it really useful. And in many ways, this book kind of reassured me that many of the things that I thought about, or the things that I felt to be true, were kind of normal, And in today's day and age, this sort of like society that tries to castrate us to some degree, this was quite reassuring for me. So The Way of Men, start there. Book number two is again another controversial one, right? And I know that some people are going to roll their eyes at this, but if you haven't read it, then I really think this is the place to start. Book number two is The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi. Now, I read this years ago now, probably about nearly 10 years ago. And this was before the whole like red pill thing had really started taking off into the mainstream. If you pick the wrong woman in your life, it can have disastrous consequences, right? You've got to be really careful. You've got to know your way around intersexual dynamics and all of that kind of stuff. And the Rational Male really sort of like puts all that out there. I think a good red pill awareness is healthy for most men. It's definitely helped me. It's definitely changed the way I deal with women and relationships for the better. It's made my relationships with women way more enriching, right? It's definitely shaped the way I look at the world for the better. And it's definitely made me a better all-round man. I don't know where some of the red pill stuff gets a bit crazy, and there's some really controversial opinions out there, but this book in general outlines all the basics. If there was one book you were ever going to read, that's probably the one. There are other honourable mentions, right? Like A Tactical Guide to Women is quite useful. But like, I just think like men, you need to understand women and how they work. Their psychology is so different to ours. And having a good basic understanding of female psychology and behaviour is only going to help you, right? And potentially protect you, because we've all seen those guys that have been absolutely like rinsed by women. Look at the thing going on at the moment with that Akash Singh. You don't want to be that guy. Having a bit of this knowledge can only help you, right? And it will help the women in your life as well. So book number 2, The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi. The next book on the list might surprise you. When I was putting this list together, it kind of surprised me, but I really wanted to include it. What I didn't want was this list to be a little bit trite, and a lot of the same sort of stuff, like, you know, like The Way of the Superior Man and Wild at Heart, and a lot of these books. Book number 3 is Alexandre Dumas, The Count of Monte Cristo. Now, this is an epic. When I first bought this book, I was like, holy shit, how am I going to get through that? This is my favourite book, right? But the reason why I've included it in this list is because I didn't want everything to be like non-fiction. I think you can learn a lot about being a better person, certainly a better man, with fiction, right? And Edmond Dantes, the main character in this book, he is a real G, right? This is a book about like revenge, essentially. But in this book, there's a lot of transformation. And I think that every good man, embraces the idea of transformation in their lives. Because you're going to have to reinvent yourself multiple times, like I have, like in my life. You know, there's been so many times where I've had to reinvent myself and take big risks and all that kind of stuff. And this book really gets to the heart of that matter. And it's just like super entertaining. I think that every great man should read about great men, whether they're real or not. And this character in this book is definitely what I would consider like a great man. When I read this book, I was like, man, this guy is like such a G. If you're not even interested in reading about, those like masculine traits or whatever, then this is just like super entertaining. It is the best book. I think it's largely considered one of the best books ever written. So yeah, The Count of Monte Cristo. Listen, don't be intimidated by the size of it. The Count of Monte Cristo. If you want a real world example of taking risks and massive transformation, then a great book to read is this one, Total Recall by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Another bit of a doorstop, but obviously this guy has had quite a life, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger is, look, you can love him or hate him, right? And there are certainly things that Arnold has done or said over the years which I have not agreed with, notably the whole fuck your freedom thing. But like, one bad move does not negate like a lifetime of positive ones. Arnold's story is like mental. There's a Bill Burr sketch where he says, this guy really should be, Arnold back in the day, bodybuilder, Austrian, barely speaks English. He should be unloading, trucks in Transylvania. But, he made it to the upper echelons of what like a man can achieve and accomplish in his life. And his story is like one that people should read, like especially men, because to me it's all about being like resourceful. Like, this guy was resourceful. You think that you can't do it in your situation, like this guy had every odd stacked against him. And plus you look at the multiple sort of careers he's had, whether it was like bodybuilding, acting, and then politics. This guy really has transformed himself. So this was like a real world example. And this guy had he was a big influence on me. Ability to take big risks and just fucking do what he wants, right? Total Recall is a book every man must read. Okay, the fifth and final book on this list. Now, you didn't think we were going to get through the whole list without some element of self-help, because you guys know that I love self-development and that kind of stuff. However, I will say this. I have read hundreds of self-development books, and after a while they start to get a little samey, just sort of like different themes and variations, right? I know it's not a lot of people's jams, and I totally understand why. Now, there is one book though that I think, regardless of whether or not you like self-development, believe in it or anything, there is one book you should read, and that is Tony, that really hurt. Broken finger. That would be Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. Now, unfortunately for you lot, it's another monster. There's a theme here. I like big books, right? It is a really, really, really solid book. If there was one self-development book that you ever read, make it this one. Tony Robbins, he obviously is the GOAT. This book was written back in the day. I think we're looking at the 90s. Yeah, 92. This was published in 92. But it takes care of everything, gives you all the tools you need, right? One of the main things that I liked about this book is that there is a lot of content about getting in control of your emotional state. Now, the world we live in today, right, is very gynocentric, very female orientated. A lot of women out there telling men how to be men. And it's horse shit, right? In my opinion, a lot of the message these days is, you need to talk about your feelings and you need to open up more and all the rest of it. And you know what? My opinion is just that that's only so useful to a man, and that I certainly felt much better and did much better and got better results when I got in control of my emotions. Because emotions are just data, right? When you have a feeling, it's just your body and your mind giving you data, giving you information. I don't think that you need to act on every emotion you have. And I certainly don't think that you need to center your life around how you feel about things. I'm not disregarding emotions completely, but this book really goes into way more depth in that. And this is, that's just my take, right? I see a lot of emotional men, and I think that's an issue, right? I think that is an issue. Emotional men, I don't think are a asset to society in general. So, getting in control of your emotions, managing your emotional state, I think is important. And I think that's, as men, something that we need to address. I could go on all day about these kinds of subjects, but those are my 5 picks. Awaken the Giant Within. It is like, if you're not into the self-help thing, just make sure you at least do this one, is what I would say. That's it, guys. Those were my 5 picks, books that have shaped the kind of man I am, and books that I found really useful, right? That, have helped me as a man. I think it's a funny subject, right? And I think that everyone has a different take on it. And this is certainly not my way of saying what I think you should do. These are just the ones that helped me, right? And the ones that I found the most useful. Do you disagree? Do you agree? Let me know in the comments box below. If you like this video and you want more stuff like this, then make sure you let me know in the comments box below. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe. For those of you who are still waiting on like an update and all that kind of stuff, I promise one is coming. I'm going to make sure I do one next week for you. But until the next one, thank you so much for watching, and make sure you hit the thumbs up, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot, guys.